Yeah, 'cause sometimes it takes a negative action in our lives to kick our butts into action and really taking a real in-depth look at what's going on. Because I'm sure when you were attacked by that anxiety, you probably were thinking, you know what, man, I'm way too young. And then considering what happened with your father, because sometimes people, when they have anxiety attacks, they think it's a heart attack. And so I'm sure that really triggered a lot of past trauma for you.
When you look at blue zones, and which are obviously those areas in the world where people live, to be exceptionally long. I don't know what the number is. Is it 90 or something to that effect?
It's 100 centenarians.
Okay, so it's centenarian. Yeah. Okay, so the interesting thing about it is that when you look at all the common denominators, the one common denominator is that the relationship aspect. It's having a social, whether it's a spouse or a network of people that you're with, and because that alleviates stress, but it builds the companionship and the sense of. There's a lot that goes on with it psychologically as well. So that is the number one thing unanimous amongst all blue zones is the social interaction.
Absolutely.
But gut microbiome is a big thing as well. And I think it's gaining popularity now. And I don't think what's interesting about gut microbiome health, since we talked about it, is, and now everybody seems to be wanting to talk about it, is the fact that it isn't something that's not understood. Like, it's very well understood. It's been understood for a very long time.
Yeah, for me, I would say the first process was for me to really get an understanding of the relationship between the food I ate and the stress I experienced and the way in which my actual physical gut reacted in my body. Learning the value of Stoicism to say, okay, let's take a logical approach to everything that I can. That doesn't mean that I don't get upset at things. That doesn't mean that I don't react and respond to things, but I try to do it in a way that doesn't impact me physically and mentally and psychologically because of the emotional aspect of it.
But look, here's the reality behind it. Most guys, most men, and most wives do want that. I don't think any guy would ever get up at the end of the day and go, I wish my sex life wasn't better. Or I wish I wasn't better in bed. And I started looking at different things in my life and correlating them to areas in my life that I enjoyed. And then I started to realize that if I didn't fix those areas, then I was not going to be able to enjoy other areas. Because
that is a very compelling argument for guys, for sure. Specifics about it, some ways that damages gut health, and then also some foods that improve gut health. So we have to learn as men and women how to do the things that are uncomfortable to make that a regular part of our disciplined life.
Most people lose that whole alignment of themselves. And I think that when you look at it, most men are always at their best when they're improving something. They're most excited, they're sharp, they've got the energy, they've got that edge as a man.
I would say entertainment is the ultimate distractor from all of the world's troubles, like sports and dance. And
the most dirt is on these NATO countries. The most dirt is on these leaders of these NATO countries. To me, it almost seems like it was purposely done this way and released this way to create even more sensation with it, because it really is a linchpin for Trump, because the sentiment by and large behind it after they released was like, this is kind of a vindication for Trump.
I hope the next person that we put in office collectively is a combination of a person that knows how to get things done, that knows how to unify, and that knows how to represent the country on the world stage where we're not laughing stocks all over the world.
Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
Feeling about that?
103 years old. It's funny because I remember a couple of years ago, my aunt saying, you know what? I think mom's going to live to 105. And so she's 103 now, man. And she looks good. My mom called her and said, happy birthday. And she said, it's not my birthday. What are you talking about? she said, my birthday's February 8th. And my mom said, well, what day do you think today is? She said, I don't know, but today's not my birthday. And so I don't know if she's like in denial after 100 or whatnot, but so there were a lot of people over there just hanging out and celebrating her and just loving on her. So it's all good. It's all good, man.
Is she the oldest person in your family tree or your lineage in the modern era or in any era that you know of? Is that like the oldest person in your family?
She's the oldest living person. We had one more person on my mom's side that lived to 104, but I don't know who that person is.
Okay.
So if my grandmother makes it to 105, she'll be the longest person on either side of my family that's ever lived.
That's interesting to see that and to study that, to see how that correlates to, what you're doing to promote, vitality and longevity and health, and then how that stacks in and compounds with just genealogy that you have or the ability. And then what does that factor in as far as how they lived? I don't think a lot of people look at stress and see how you manage stress and how you. And I didn't really understand what that meant either until I'd say probably about 4 or 5 years ago, when you really understand what managed stress means. And I had to experience an anxiety attack in order to understand what that actually meant. Like, what is happening right now? And it was a very scary experience in my life, because I'd never had anything like that happen to me. But it was also a very awakening experience and a healing experience, because it allowed me to see something that I didn't necessarily understand or have a grasp on. It's like you have to experience something to really understand it, or to actually be able to fully, really, I don't want to say appreciate it, but I guess, fully be involved in it, or fully be invested or affected by it.
Yeah, because sometimes it takes a negative action in our lives to kick our butts into action and really taking a real in-depth look at what's going on. Because I'm sure when you were attacked by that anxiety, you probably were thinking, you know what, man, I'm way too young. And then considering what happened with your father, because sometimes people, when they have anxiety attacks, they think it's a heart attack. And so I'm sure that really triggered a lot of past trauma for you, experiencing what went on with your dad. And so in hindsight, it was a good thing, because it wasn't a heart attack, and it really got you into thinking about longevity. It got you thinking about your diet and your health. And now, we're going to be talking about gut health and really that whole gut brain connection. Before we do that, I was just thinking about my grandmother, and you were talking earlier about the impact of stress. And,
right.
For my grandmother, I can tell you, I've known her since she was in her 50s. And so I remember her when, she was very beautiful, very outgoing, always the life of the party. She and her husband traveled to every state in the contiguous United States. So they had a motorhome. And so every place
Isn't that awesome?
They had these vests, and every state they went to, they would put a state patch on there. And so, every time you see, she has Iowa and Montana and, all of these places that she's gone. And so she definitely lived a good life, and she has been living a good life. She's able to walk still and talk, and she's still witty and funny, and it just really goes to show, if you live a life where you're happy and you're spending it with someone you enjoy, it really makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think that when you look at blue zones, and which are obviously those areas in the world where people live, to be exceptionally long. I don't know what the number is. Is it 90 or something to that effect?
It's 100 centenarians.
Okay, so it's centenarian. Yeah. Okay, so the interesting thing about it is that when you look at all the common denominators, the one common denominator is that the relationship aspect. It's having a social, whether it's a spouse or a network of people that you're with, and because that alleviates stress, but it builds the companionship and the sense of. There's a lot that goes on with it psychologically as well. So that is the number one thing unanimous amongst all blue zones, is the social interaction.
Absolutely.
But gut microbiome is a big thing as well, and I think it's gaining popularity now. And I don't think what's interesting about gut microbiome health, since we talked about it, is, and now everybody seems to be wanting to talk about it, is the fact that it isn't something that's not understood. Like, it's very well understood. It's been understood for a very long time. Like, I'm under the weather today. I was driving back from Dallas on Friday, and I started to get that tickle in the back of my throat, and I went, oh man. And then today it just kind of, you can hear it in my voice a little bit. But I immediately this morning, I was like, heck yeah, it is going to be 85 degrees today. And it's been cold here.
Whoa, like, okay, that's a big change.
85 degrees today. In fact, as we sit right now, it's 80 degrees right now. It's beautiful. It feels like it's summertime. No humidity. I'm getting in that sun. And I laid out, I took my shirt off, I laid out in the sun for 20 minutes. And I was like,
good for you.
This feels vitamin D, so amazing, right? Like, so amazing. And that, again, is also well documented, that human beings need sunlight, especially men, because when you get sun exposure, it's the master synthesis for hormone production for males and women as well. So just understanding gut microbiome science and how to eat for your gut is completely revolutionary and changes your life in so many ways, because so many people, and I didn't even understand this because it never really was a problem for me until I made it a problem for me, but so many people live with some type of gastro issue daily, whether it be heartburn or gas, bloating, uncomfortableness, like some way, somehow you're dealing with gastric issues all day long. Majority of people. And I just couldn't understand why it was so prevalent until you understand, obviously, the change in diet, and you understand the lack of people eating certain things that need to be eaten. And I'm a proponent of a lot of different things. But to me, eating right for that, to feed that the gut microbiome, is the secondary brain, or because that communicates with your brain, and it's everything, endocrine system, all of that stuff feeds off of the health of that microbiome, and having a rich understanding of that and what to do. And I can get into what I've done, Len, but I'm curious to know where you're at with that as well. I do take a few supplements every now and then to feed when I feel a little off. But for me, I am always on the quest to find how I can get whatever I need done in my body through a metabolic process. So I have gotten off of a lot of supplements because of changing my diet and eating to produce the right types of micros and macros through metabolic process. To me, is the most important thing. So understanding that, but I'm curious to know where you're at with microbiome and how it's changed for you.
Yeah, for me, I would say the first process was for me to really get an understanding of the relationship between the food I ate and the stress I experienced and the way in which my actual physical gut reacted in my body. And I didn't really understand it. And I didn't understand the fact that when you look at just like when you talk about gut health, you're talking about what you talked about, the gut microbiome. So all of the good and bad bacteria that live in your stomach, because both serve a purpose. So when you have some type of sickness, you need those white cells to go and fight and attack that inflammation, and that causes inflammation. And so, but prolonged periods of inflammation is bad, but short periods of inflammation is what saves you. So you need a combination of the two. So the bacteria is the gut microbiome. And then when you talk about the gut lining, so when you eat food, how does the food break down, convert to nutrients that go into your bloodstream? So I didn't really understand that. And I didn't understand just the whole function of the gut, okay, how does digestion work and nutrition work and all of those things? So that was the first thing, is I really needed to get an understanding of that. And then once I had a basic level of understanding in just how like the hormones are created by the gut, then I learned, okay, like if you look at pictures of your brain and then the brain stem, there's this long nerve that travels down the spine that goes all the way into the gut called the vagus nerve. And so I didn't even understand that the gut and the brain both work together. So you don't have the brain just controlling the gut or the gut just controlling the brain. There's a symbiotic relationship between the two. I didn't understand all of that. I didn't understand any of that. So, like, for example, once I learned it, then I was like, oh, okay. So when I'm asleep and I have a bad dream and I wake up and I'm shaky and jittery and my skin is sweaty, there's a reason, because the gut and the brain are both connected. And so once I started putting all of those pieces of the puzzle together, then it finally started to make sense that, hey, you can't just, because I eat some food and it doesn't make me nauseous or it doesn't make me feel sick, I can't just eat something just because I don't have an immediate adverse reaction. So once I learned more about it, and I certainly don't proclaim to be an expert about it, I just wanted to know enough just to say, okay, now that I understand that there is a real relationship between what I put in my body and what I put in my brain, meaning somebody says something and if I immediately have a stressful reaction to what they say, now I start to produce cortisol. And then when I produce cortisol consistently because I'm always mad, well, then my body's going to react and release, bad things into my bloodstream, which is going to increase my propensity to have heart disease. So just what I put into my body is one part of it. It's what I put into my brain and how I treat all of those things working together, which is really what made the difference for me. And I'll turn it back over to you and then we can have a back and forth. But for me, once I realized that I'm in control of my body and my safety over long periods of time, how so I had to learn about the value of Stoicism, right? Because there's so many things, and we'll probably get into it, when you look at what happened over the weekend and all of the racial overtones and undertones and, challenges that we're having in Minnesota and the Democrats versus the Republicans and blah, 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 all of these things. You can, if you stew over that and you react emotionally to it, you stay in this constant state of anxiety. So learning the value of Stoicism to say, okay, let's take a logical approach to everything that I can. That doesn't mean that I don't get upset at things. That doesn't mean that I don't react and respond to things, but I try to do it in a way that doesn't impact me physically and mentally and psychologically because of the emotional aspect of it. So I'll turn it over to you, Chris, but really just seeing the gut brain connection as a holistic interconnectedness is really what really changed my trajectory in my life.
I would like to touch also on the fact that most guys and most guys, let's just say guys, in general, don't ever want to think about this and don't even want to talk about it. Because the reality is that you can't, look, I would love to go pound. I was talking to, what was it? My friend, my son's friend was over and we were talking about food. And I said, look, I'd love to go pound a double quarter pounder with cheese right now from McDonald's. Like, nothing would be more exciting than going and getting a double quarter pounder with cheese with an extra large fry and a shake, or maybe even a Sprite. Who knows, right? I mean, it's going to be so great.
McFlurry with some Oreo cookies.
Something good. Yeah, Oreo cookie McFlurry, right? I mean, all of that. Yeah. You're like, I want to go do that, right? And it would be so great. But eventually what ends up happening is you end up starting to, and this is just what for me, is I just started to look at other areas of my life that were important for me. And we're very open about it. So look, I like to be healthy and I like to be able to perform in all facets of health. specifically extracurricular ones that you have with your wife. So for me, sexual health is extremely important, and it has been important because I enjoy it. It's a big important part of my life and my relationship. Hence the reason why I have so many children, right? This is why you have
you are fruitful and multiplying.
Just happening, right? But look, I mean, here's the reality behind it. Most guys, most men, and most wives do want that. I mean, I don't think any guy would ever get up at the end of the day and go, I wish my sex life wasn't better. Or I wish I wasn't better in bed. And I started looking at different things in my life and correlating them to areas in my life that I enjoyed. And then I started to realize that if I didn't fix those areas, then I was not going to be able to enjoy other areas. Because
that is a very compelling argument for guys, for sure.
That's what worked for me, Len. Because realistically, it's tough for you to go, well, who cares? Because again, when you're 20, you could keep doing that because your body is able to compensate. So you could just, who cares? Right? But eventually you get to the point where, and I remember that point. I do. I remember I was 36, 37. And I went, what the frick, dude? Like, this is weird. And you know when it's weird. You know when it's weird because you're like, dude, that's not supposed to happen. Like, and you start going, what the heck? And thank God, like, I'm in the era of the internet, because if I wasn't born in the era of the internet and I was like in the medieval times, I would probably die of anxiety. I'd be dead because I wouldn't be able to figure out what was wrong with me or how to fix it, right? Because the reality is that you have that wake up call. And that for me was I was, 36, 37, and I was working a lot. And it wasn't even a big thing. It was just that's weird. And then I didn't think anything of it until I started reading. And then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, dude, like, yeah. And then I looked at myself in the mirror and I went, yeah, dude, I don't know what's going on right now. Like, I'm sorry.
Is that when you hit 224 pounds? Was it that time?
I think it was like I was coming down off of that, but it was close. It was right around that time. It was maybe about 3 or 4 months after that, because you start to realize, like, just by default, that you're like, dude, I'm not getting any new clothes right now. And you fit into these bad boys 2 or 3 months ago. You should fit them again right now, right?
You know when you got shrinking, you're expanding. Right? You
know when you got to put jeans on, you got to kind of walk your hands around the waistline to push them, to stretch them out. Yeah. Right? And then you go, and then you go, okay, yeah, they just need to be stretched out because I washed them.
Right. They're in the dryer, they shrunk on me. No, bro, you expanded.
No, you fat ass, you got fat, right? So, yeah, taking accountability for that, and then obviously diving into the health aspects of it. And then I looked at myself and I went, look, I have 4 boys, and I also have 2 girls, and I don't want them to see that example. I don't want them to see that. I don't want to be the out of shape dad. I don't want to be the unhealthy. Like, I need to set, and not just for me, but for them, because I need them to see that as an example. Like, they should understand and know that that's the standard. And because why not? Why wouldn't you want that type of standard? And because this is a vessel for you, and you ought to take care of it. You ought not to abuse it, because you can. Look, you can freely abuse it, and it will take a lot of abuse from you. But eventually it's going to go, look, I ain't taking any more abuse from you, and now you got to deal with it, because now I want to do everything I can, Len, to make sure that my body doesn't have to take care of me as much as outside of what outside of what it's supposed to do naturally. You know what I mean? Because you should take care of your body so that it can take care of, the aspects so you're not ending up having to take care of the body eventually. And that was it for me. But yeah, you got to make it compelling, because otherwise it's like, why would you want to? Because everyone wants to pound that double quarter pounder with cheese. I want to eat a large pizza. But the biggest thing that I noticed in doing this, and obviously, is, look, no one wants to be constipated. I don't understand any of those issues. I don't understand constipation. And not that I don't understand it. I don't understand it because I don't experience it.
You don't experience it. Right?
Eat 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. Just like it's so easy to do, because the fiber feeds it, and you'll know it. Fiber feeds your gut. Fiber. Figure out a way to eat the vegetables first before you eat anything else. Like, for me, it was finding something that worked. And then then you get to a point where you can create so much compensation and or so much leverage in your favor that like you can still eat those things that you're like, oh yeah, dude, I want to eat some pizza.
Just in moderation. Yeah.
Because at this point you're able to flex and you're able to, there's a concept that's called keto flex or metabolic switch or metabolic flex, where if you're not used to eat, for me, I'm low carb, I do, Mediterranean paleo. When I do incorporate grains or something I'm not used to, I'm able to go eat In-N-Out and I'm not going to understand and feel that I eat In-N-Out. I'm not going to feel it.
Because you do it in moderation.
Yes, exactly. So you just have to learn how to switch that way. And what I found is that long term, when you get that way, I have such a mental psychological block now where I don't even think twice about it anymore. Whereas now it's like, when I do go have like an In-N-Out or something like that, or a piece of pizza, I'm like, damn, dude, this thing tastes so great. And I don't even need to eat. Sometimes I don't even finish because I'm like, I've had enough. It's just so good. It's interesting how you can change your physiology and again, that has a lot to do with your gut health. Because if your gut is not craving it, you won't want to eat it. And that's the key thing when you'll know you got it. I don't crave junk food anymore. I crave broccoli, which is weird. I crave peanut butter. You end up craving because now your body understands what it is to be in a balanced homeostasis without any of the MSG and the extra sugar and the processed sodiums and the glyphosates and the cornstarch, modified food starch, maltodextrin, all that crap that goes in there. You're now operating on a healthy chain and everything is communicating where you will crave what you naturally need to be healthy. Mm-hmm. It's fascinating.
There's a couple of things that, yeah, you're right. I wanted to give the audience a couple of specifics about it, some ways that damages gut health, and then also some foods that improve gut health. So one is ultra processed foods. Another one is low fiber intake. You touched on that. Another one, we talked about chronic stress. It's okay to have stress from time to time, but chronic stress is not good. Poor sleep is another one. Excess alcohol is another one. And then repeated or unnecessary antibiotics. That's one I really remember back in the 70s. People would throw down antibiotics and that just messes up your gut microbiome in a big way. So we've learned a lot since that time. And then also the last one is a sedentary lifestyle. So if you're sitting around, you have a desk job and you're not getting up and moving your body, that really damages gut health. Now, some foods that improve gut health, fiber you talked about. So, and then also, like vegetables, fruits, beans, whole grains, those are all fiber rich foods. And then also a diversity of foods. So a lot more plant variety, and then aim for many different types of plants a week. So leafy greens and things like that. And then also fermented foods. So foods like kimchi, yogurt, sauerkraut, and then also just, stress management. We talked about chronic stress. So finding ways to manage your stress, and then also, exercise and sleep. Those things I am telling you make a significant difference. So I just wanted to share that, just to piggyback on the points you brought up, Chris.
Yeah. And it's excellent. I mean, it's excellent. You can have bread. Just try to eat sourdough. I mean,
sourdough bread is definitely the better one.
Don't eat white bread. It's disgusting. Every hour that you sit, like we're sitting right now, 15 air squats for every hour that you sit like this. You just incorporate it. For me, I don't know how it works for a lot of other people. I just know for me, those types of things are what works for me. Because I'm not the person who's going to go, I got to go to the gym. I don't go to the gym. I only go to the gym for the wet sauna and the hot sauna. Until I build my farmhouse that's going to have both in it, that's the only reason why I go to the gym. I don't go to the gym for anything else. So for me, I enjoy those types of things because I like to walk a lot. I like to go out. I like to be in the out. If I'm sitting, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do 15 air squats between every hour of sitting. And just those small things that you do throughout the day, because you're constantly moving and you're constantly elevating your heart rate, through non-plateau. You're like, because it's always changing, right? You're always, it's a complete random. It's not the set thing. That's what creates that metabolic drive, that metabolic health. So you don't crash at the end of the day. You should eat and not feel sluggish. You should have a natural sleep pattern. Like for me, like by 11 o'clock, I'm done for, dude. Done. 11, lights out, less than 10 minutes, and 5:30, 5 o'clock, I'm up and I'm ready to go. And that's been the rhythm that I've been able to get myself into just because of changing the diet. And don't eat. If you're gonna eat, don't eat 4 hours before you're gonna go to sleep. You have to have 4 hours between you eating your last thing and going to bed. Those make key differences to improve how this whole thing functions, because you got to think about it in respects that every time you eat, it's just like a car engine processing fuel. You're processing, your body has to process that. That's called metabolize. And the more excess stress you have on that machine, and then obviously what type of food you're feeding yourself is the type of gasoline you're putting in your machine. And the other thing too that I think is important, Len, and we can switch gears.
You got to get rid of this before you go to bed, man. Is to fix the circadian rhythms and stop putting that blue light in your body.
You know, not looking at that screen and not looking at it first thing in the morning, but go to a holistic doctor and get a full panel done, because you might not be a person that should be eating vegetables. You might need to reduce that. You might be a person who could benefit more from eating red meat. You know, you might find these things. I mean, I remember a year and a half ago, I was like, I cannot get lean muscle. And I'm 44. And I was like, I can't get it. And then all of a sudden I started incorporating a little bit more red meat in my diet, because that's an excellent way to build muscle. And it's like, all of a sudden I'm like, all right, cool. I needed the nutrient from that. And the surest thing is you can observe. The best thing is you can observe, because if you have a doctor, like a holistic doctor can run every panel for you, knows how to do it. Observe your diet. 90 days later, you get blood work. 6 months later, you can get blood work, and you can see your markers and see if it's working for you and adjust your diet based on that. Because the key thing, before I throw it to you, Len, is you have to be able to live with it on a daily basis. And that's where it becomes an issue for a lot of guys, or a lot of anybody, is that it's so easy to go to freaking Jack in the Box, and it's so inconvenient to eat clean. It is. Until you learn how to develop the discipline to eat clean, it's not hard until you develop that discipline. But it's always easier to go to McDonald's because they make it that way. It's by design. So,
yeah, no doubt. I just think that overall, we have to learn as men and women how to do the things that are uncomfortable to make that a regular part of our disciplined life. Because to me, when I look at somebody who's overweight, I have to be honest. I judge, man. And the thing that I judge is I automatically make an assumption that you're just undisciplined. Now, I've been undisciplined. I've been overweight. So I remember looking at myself in the mirror and seeing my gut and thinking, man, this is not
it just doesn't look sexy,
man.
Dude.
It doesn't, man.
Like, how do you want to go be sexy with your wife and you're going, yeah, baby, look at that gut. How do you even want to go do that? Like, how do you want to go
really
be Keith Sweat? How do you want to go be Keith Sweat?
Right. It just impacted me, man. And so, I said, when I hit 50 years old, I just say, you know what? I'm making a decision that I'm going to live a disciplined life. Now, I really want to be clear. Like, I'm not trying to profess that I'm a gym bro. I don't like the gym just like you. It's not something that I'm not looking to have 6-pack abs. That's not my outcome. My outcome is simply to eat well so I can live a long, healthy life. I'm not looking to have, a sculpted body, but I just don't want to take my shirt off and see lack of discipline. And so, I don't eat every time I feel not full. That's the difference. I wait until my eating window opens and then I shut it down, but I'm not perfect. And so, just live a life of discipline. And talking about discipline, man, over the weekend, I don't know, did you get a chance to watch the Super Bowl? Go ahead.
I did, and I thought it was great. Okay. Before you say that, something I want to caveat into, because you said discipline, right? Mm-hmm. And it struck with me there where you said discipline, because you said, I don't want to take my shirt off and you don't see discipline, right? Because that would be contrary to your identity. right? So that's the alignment. That's the alignment of masculinity that you speak about. That a lot of I didn't understand that until I got more mature. I think a lot of people don't understand that is the alignment of masculinity is that you can look at someone and say, oh, okay, cool. You can have a big masculine presence, meaning you want to be loud and obnoxious in the room, but you're overweight and you're not in shape. Like, you ought to look the way your body, if you're a guy, you ought to look the way your body was portrayed in statues, right? You ought to look the way you should look in a scientific portrait. That's the way you ought to look. You ought to look the way you look when you're, like, I look at my kids, my sons, and I go, yeah, I remember when I looked that way. And you remember, for those who lost your way, because some dudes, by the way, bravo to them who don't ever lose that discipline, who stay that way throughout their whole, I don't know what that is. I'm curious to actually ask someone that question now, that I've known in my life since the beginning, that's always been that way, that's never gotten out of shape. But you at one point were in shape. You at one point, unless you're an oddity, the anomaly where you have the I can't remember the scientific term, but it's basically neo-obesity, where you're actually born fat. Like, you were born in it. You're at such a disadvantage because the obesity of your mother, that when you're born, you're essentially, you need to be, your body's already geared. Your body's already chemically or whatever it is designed to build more fat cells than muscle cells. It's an interesting thing. You can go look it up. But most people lose that whole alignment of themselves. And I think that when you look at it, most men are always at their best when they're improving something. They're most excited. They're sharp. They've got the energy. They've got that edge. As a man, you have that when you're getting better at something and when you're improving at something. So if you look at all the areas of your life, and you might be good at business, or you might be good at spending time with your family, you might be good at being emotionally available, you might be good at a lot of different things. But at one point, it comes a time where you look at yourself physically and go, okay, I need to become more disciplined with this. And as you do that, you become more disciplined with your diet, and you become more disciplined with your nutrition, because you end up going, dude, I want to get up in the morning and not feel fatigue. I don't want to feel pain. I don't want to feel, I want to feel as young as I possibly can feel, as long as I possibly can. And that starts to become a discipline for you. And when you start to see those results and you start to practice that, Len, that's when you see that energy translate in all these other areas of your life and improve elsewhere. Rising tides lift all ships. So I think that was an important message, just as a side note, because you mentioned discipline. Because at one point, you lost the discipline if you were because you were. That's and then all of a sudden you had to get it back. So I'd be curious to know. But yes, I did watch the Super Bowl. Obviously, my sons know more about the teams playing. I'm not really a football guy, but I thought it was a great game. I thought it was almost going to be a shutout. And then the Patriots came back. But I just seen it the first 2 minutes of the game. And by the way, I know nothing about any of these teams. I didn't watch one football game. I do know a little bit about, obviously, the Patriots, because the Patriots are the Patriots. And I know about the Seahawks because the Seahawks are the Seahawks. And I'm a big Pete Carroll fan, because I used to go to USC games back in 02 to 04. Interestingly, I'm watching a documentary that I'm going to share with you about USC. So, not all about USC, but somebody went there. And I've just seen them in the first 2 minutes, Len, and I went, damn, the Seahawks look freaking tough, man. They look like they are ready to kill. And they did. They dominated the whole game. There wasn't a moment in that game and there was so many moments in that game, Len, where you're like, oh, those are momentum shifts. That's going to shift the momentum. And they shut it down so damn fast. Like, the one time they got the interception and ran it, I was like, oh my God, that turnover. I was like, the announcer even said, he's like, look, they've got a rhythm. They're getting a rhythm. And again, he goes, I just don't know what to say. So, yeah, great game.
I brought it up also because I know that you're not really into sports, but I wanted to just see if you had heard any of the background noise about the halftime show with Bad Bunny. Because
interesting.
TPUSA did an alternative halftime show kind of as a protest because Bad Bunny was up there. So I wanted to know, because you're a right-leaning guy, you operate in right-leaning circles and things like that. Had you heard anything because I know you're not into sports, but the halftime show evidently was a thing.
What was the halftime show last year? It was Kendrick Lamar.
Last year was Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar was okay. He was good. That was a good halftime show. I thought it was Super Bowl worthy. I don't have a problem. I know there's an issue with Bad Bunny. Apparently, he's an American citizen, right? He's from Puerto Rico, right?
He's from Puerto Rico.
Oh, okay, cool. So he's U.S. citizen, or that makes you U.S. citizen, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm clear on my civics, Len. All right. Here's Chris talking about educating about civics all the time, and he had to second guess that one. No, but I know there's some backlash behind the whole thing with that, but I don't really listen to him. But I can tell you I know his songs just because they're popular. You know, I thought it was a great halftime show. I didn't have an issue with it. I didn't watch the TPUSA one. I wasn't going to. I hadn't planned on it. I'm not really a TPUSA person. I never watched Turning Point. I just watched Charlie on Shorts and on YouTube because I thought he was the most brilliant debater I've ever seen and the most educated. Like, there's no one like Charlie Kirk. I don't think you're going to see a Charlie Kirk for another 100 years because I don't think there's anyone that could articulate a message, speak, debate, categorize, stratify information at the speed that he did and just be so eloquent in the way he did it. But I wasn't a TPUSA fan. I didn't have a problem. I thought it was a very entertaining show. Yes, there was some undertones in there and some innuendo and whatever, but that's everything. I thought it was better than the one with that Eminem and Dr. Dre and all those guys were part of when they bowed down and everything like that. I thought that was a little silly right there. But I thought it was
liked
fun.
it just because the music was from my era. But I really liked the halftime show.
It was great.
I don't understand Spanish, but I saw the symbolism and I was really impressed by it because, like, for example, the set and the elaborate nature of that set?
It was beautiful.
Was sick. It was sick. What I learned later is that the trees were actually people. So they didn't move trees onto the field. There were people and then they created that maze. And so they were actually not trees. They were sugarcane. And so that's, talking about the history of Puerto Rico, and a lot of slave labor happened on that territory. And, so Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States. It's really a colony, but, colony is a bad word, so to speak. And so, they're taxed, but they don't have representation. And so one of the reasons why they were climbing up the poles and with the electric poles and then they exploded and then they went back, that was talking about the impact of the hurricane and how their transformers exploded and there was a late response to the hurricane there. And so, it was just, I like the fact that, like, I went and looked at the translation, the words did not have any political undertones at all.
It was such a clean show.
But the visual part of it was, though. It was a very, very well thought out visual, man.
Isn't that the way you ought to do it? Isn't that the way you ought to do it?
It's a Super Bowl. You got to go all out.
You have to. I thought it was very respectful. The coin toss, the flags. I thought it was, you know what it was for me? It was back to normal. It just seemed normal to me. It was a normal Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was good. And then he had a little message on the football about, essentially, all of the Americas should be united. It was very, very well done, man. And I was interested to hear your take on it. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
Watching his performance and watching it and to see it was refreshing, considering when you watched a lot of the commercials and you saw how AI polished the people were, like there was one with Sophie Vergara, and I was like,
Sophia Vergara,
it was so AI enhanced and polished, just all of them, where you're like, they look fake. They look like, when you everyone turned themselves into an avatar, stuff with ChatGPT, and
it's crazy.
The commercials look so AI advanced. Like, there was a United commercial where I was like, dude, it was all AI. No, those were not real people in the plane and everything. And it was just, so to watch that, to see what was real, you actually really got to see that in the Super Bowl, I think, this year with the commercials, where you got to see a lot of commercials that were AI enhanced. where you're like,
it was
I know
interesting,
Al
man.
Pacino don't look that young. I know all these guys don't look that young. When you see these movies now that are AI enhanced, you're like, it just looks weird, dude. It looks weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
Just imagine it's come that far in 3 years, because you see the Will Smith eating spaghetti 3 years ago versus now, and you cannot tell that it's not him unless you're an expert on meticulous detail. And so that was interesting. But man, I would say entertainment is the ultimate distractor from all of the world's troubles, like sports and dance, and in politics, it's controversy. And I have a belief, and I want to see what your thoughts are before I tell my side. Is I believe that all of this craziness going on right now is a continuation of a distraction and a smokescreen, because the Epstein files are starting to like create this like ominous cloud over the United States and Europe. And so I wanted to get your thoughts. Like, for example, you saw the whole the elections fraud video, and then at the end you see the Obamas depicted as apes. I want to get your take on all of these distractions, and if you think they're distractions on purpose, or do you think that it's just coincidence?
Okay. First and foremost, Len, I am. Look, if you're Bill Gates right now, you want to crawl. If you're Bill Gates right now, you are calling Elon Musk and saying, "Please send me to Mars with you." You want to be nowhere or to be found right now. Like, Bill Gates is going down in flames right now, but I don't really think it even matters because he's still going to be worth a shit ton of money. But true. At the end of the day, like, can that guy speak anywhere and have any time? Like, bro, like, you just seriously just need to go take your money and go read books in Redmond, Washington for the rest of your life at this point. Because we all know you're a pedophile. We all know you were with young women. Like, there's no secret now at this point. The quiet part is out loud right now is a pedophile rapist, which is disgusting. And I can only say that because it's different when you have daughters versus when you have sons. As a father, and I don't know what it is, Len, because I remember when I was pregnant. Oh, I wasn't pregnant, but when I was having a daughter, and they say, "Oh, it's going to change the way you are." I'm like, no, it's not, and it does. It does. I don't know what it is, but it does. It is different. It does change you as a man. You look at things differently when you have daughters. So yeah, it is. It's just disgusting because it makes you want to just, I'm not a violent person, but it makes you just want to, I don't want to do anything. Like, I want to pantomime, but you understand what I mean. Like, it makes you just,
absolutely. I
want to say something right now that you're going to hear on an NWA record right now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes. I hear you, man. Yes.
Because it just strikes a little differently for you. And at this point it is. So yeah, the Epstein files are absolutely damaging to a crap ton of people. And it was a 50-50 for me. It was either nothing, it was just completely blown up, which I still think that carries a lot of weight. I still think that does not, by the way, diminish at all the impact, at all the severity of it. But it is obviously been inflated a lot. And I don't think it needed to be inflated because it was serious enough. I think that we've dragged this on, and I think too many people have weaponized it now and have used it as weapons. And I think a lot of people, now we know why it was suppressed. Jay-Z's fled the country.
No, he's back. He was at the Super Bowl.
Oh, he's back now, right? All that crap that's going on.
I don't know how true that story was. Maybe he left and came back, but he's
in the files. He's in the files. That's disgusting. We all know Beyonce is involved. All of these things that are going on, all these prime ministers and all these monarchs that are stepping down from positions in Europe, all of this stuff is disgusting. It's gross. Bill Clinton is in pictures that you don't even do the videos, like all of it. It's just the amount of treason that people have committed in those Epstein stuff with him, the backstabbing, the espionage, like it's like a spy. Like, You don't even have to understand where Hollywood gets all of its plot from. It just looks at the Epstein files and goes, "Oh, let's make a movie about this," because it's
Here's
real.
the big elephant. Here's the big elephant in the room, Chris. Because last time I checked, you are a really big, Trump supporter, and his name has been in the files quite a lot.
It is, but here's the best.
I want to know if your perception has changed, or do you think that there's no there?
No, there's no there with him. And it just, oh yeah, because here's the thing. It's the same thing as Elon Musk. Elon Musk's in the files. Elon Musk never did any of that stuff. Everybody knows that. That's why no one's blowing it up. That's why the media is not going after it. Also, the other guy, Dan Pena. I don't know if you know.
Well, you could say the same about Jay-Z then. I mean, like...
No. I mean, Jay-Z was with Diddy, all these guys. Look, did you see the video of Jay-Z
by association, yes. Okay, look, I'm just being objective here.
Did you see Jay-Z getting dissed by Denzel Washington at the Lakers game?
In a big way. He wants to disassociate himself. But this is what I'm saying, though. I just don't understand how... Help me understand how you're coming to the conclusions, because I'm not making any judgment. I just want to understand how you process.
Because a lot of these people,
here's the reason why I'm asking. Okay, so like when I look at Jay-Z and I look at his association with Diddy, it disgusts me, right? And then when I think about his wife, there's been a lot of rumors for a long time that, there's some witchcraft and satanic rituals and stuff like that. And, I think if any of those allegations are true, and I kind of feel like they are, but I haven't seen any like smoking gun evidence to say 100% without conclusion, without beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's true or that it's not. So I haven't come to.
Yeah, but you don't have to.
But okay, but hear me out. When I see Trump, I see so many instances where he's talking to he's been in contact with little girls. There have been allegations from women about him specifically. His name has been mentioned so many times in it. Again, I come to the same conclusion with him that I come with Jay-Z and Beyonce, which is I haven't seen the smoking gun, but there's enough evidence that I've seen thus far that gives a very good suggestion that there's a lot more that's going on that has been revealed. That's what
Does Jay-Z have kids?
The reason. Yes, he has 2 daughters.
Yeah, man. Look,
he has 2 daughters.
Here's the thing that you want to say. Say what you want to say. I mean, about Trump. Everybody knows Trump. Everybody knows Trump is a womanizer. We all know he's a misogynist. Everybody knows that. And he grew up in the 80s.
I don't hold that against him. I don't hold that against him.
But here's the thing. There's no pictures of him with anybody. The pictures that they did put up, and they had to take it down or redact it, I think it was the BBC or whoever did it, when they showed him a picture with the young kids, it was from a beauty pageant. But Trump's never there. And here's the smoking gun that a lot of people don't want to hear, though, Len, that's a deal sealer. There's a ton of people in these files, like Jay-Z, that continue to maintain a relationship with Epstein after they knew he was convicted.
And the same thing is true for a lot of those people.
But not for Trump, right? I agree, but not for Trump. See, but it is on record, and that was released in the
as far as we know, bro. Because look,
right,
here, you got to see this, Chris. Like, okay,
I do,
I'll yield the floor. I want to make this one last point, and I'll yield the floor. The thing that has me the most up in arms is the fact that you'll see the names of people redacted that are possible perpetrators. Like it'll say from somebody to Jeffrey. You're not going to have one of the victims reaching out to Jeffrey Epstein. So why are you concealing that person's name or those people's names? And so
I don't know.
When you have all of these unnecessary redactions, man, it brings to question because like, let me ask you, and this is it. If you, Chris, were Trump and you were the president and all of these files were getting released, would you allow one piece of condemning evidence go unredacted? Yes or no?
I definitely would not allow it, but he doesn't have control over that. He doesn't. He doesn't have
Yes, he
control over that.
does, Chris. You're
I don't
naive
think
if
he
you think
does.
that.
I don't think he does. I don't think he does. Look, let me make this.
He appointed the Department of Justice.
I get it. I get it. But there's a reason why they're redacting that stuff. Like, they can't show those videos. They can't show that.
But it's
stuff.
Names, bro. It's names.
I don't know why that, but I don't think it's. I don't look. Here's the thing. They know who they are. They know who they are. They know who the perps are. Here's the point that I'm gonna tell you why I don't think this carries any weight with Trump. These files were in the hands of all of those people.
They're in them too, I believe. I'm not.
Okay, hold on.
I'm not discounting any of them.
What I'm saying is these files were in the hands of Jerry Nadler. These were in the hands of Hochul. These were in the hands of who's the guy? Adam Schiff. These files were in the hands of Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and Hillary Clinton, Obama. All of these guys saw these files.
Sure,
they all did.
Absolutely.
Wasserman, Schultz, AOC, whoever, all the big players, Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi, Len, all of them, rank and file from the bottom to the top. I would bet even George Soros has seen them. They've all seen them. And guess why they never used them to go after Trump? Because they looked at them and went, shit.
Oh, it's a simple
You don't
shit.
think hold on. You don't think for a second they wouldn't have redacted everything that they needed to redact when they had the power and just focused on Trump? And because here's the thing, they didn't use that as a weapon at all. Their nuclear strike on Trump was to try to seize his assets and break his back with Letitia James. That was this, and then the fake doc case when they raided Mar-a-Lago. Those were the stakes in the heart. But what they didn't end up accounting for was the fact that Trump is a freaking survivor and Trump is a doer and Trump gets things done. He's an entrepreneur. He doesn't care if he's on the balls of his ass. They should have listened when he gave that interview and the lady said, "How rich are you?" And he said, "You're richer than me. I'm $900 million. I'm $1 billion in the hole right now." They should have listened when at that point, but they didn't. Never fuck with a guy who's $1 billion in debt because he ain't got nothing to lose. And they went that far with him. They debanked him. Okay. You saw that he's got that lawsuit that he's going to win with JP Morgan Chase because JP Morgan Chase debanked him. And I believe it because if JP Morgan Chase again is getting accused of manipulating silver and they paid like $1 billion fine for manipulating silver before a couple years ago, you don't think for a second they didn't debank Trump and the Trump organizations. They did. None of that stuff carries weight. None of it carries weight. Otherwise, they would have attacked Trump with it. They would have attacked Trump with it. Okay.
Everything that you said in response to my question, I agree with you from the standpoint that lots of people have seen those files.
You want to go get a cheeseburger? I wish I could go get a cheeseburger right now. That's what I wish.
What I don't believe is that
you can eat a chicken burger because you don't even meat.
Saw all of those things. I don't think people. I mean, you're talking 6 million files. I don't believe anybody has gone through all of them. Now, here's the thing, though. Here's why I say I agree with you. I think that there are so many people that are complicit and that are part of this whole.
It's so big.
That the whole.
It's so big.
Exactly.
It's so big.
Exactly.
It's so big.
So because of that, the people in power was like, you know what? It's better just to allow this thing to suffocate and drown. And you
want to know something crazy, Len?
There's new evidence that suggests that your president had Epstein unalived. Now, I don't know that to be true. I haven't seen any evidence of that. My last point, which is this, is that I believe that it's so, the people that are implicated, it's so pervasive that it's on both sides. And that literally would be a draining of the swamp. I'm all for it. I think they all need to be exposed, man. And I don't know how either side is thinking that they're going to wiggle out of it, because the Clintons have agreed to do a public hearing. They called their bluff. So I'm very interested
They're
to
toast.
see how this
They're
starts
toast.
to unravel, because
Look,
they're going to bring people with them. They're
here's the
old,
thing.
man. Like, go ahead.
They're so toast. They're so toast. We know they're beyond toast. Look, here's what's happening right now. It's interesting to see this happen, because this right here is what's bringing NATO down. It's bringing NATO down because all these guys that are implemented with Epstein, they're all NATO leaders. Think about that for a second. They're all NATO leaders. If this fully got released, it would bring down the British crown. That's how deep it goes. That's how deep it goes. Because think about how deep Andrew
We're
is
not
on it.
overly concerned about that.
I understand that, but you know who is understandably concerned about it? All these NATO countries that are implemented. The most dirt is on these NATO countries. The most dirt is on these leaders of these NATO countries. They're all involved.
But if you take that argument at face value, and I don't disagree with you, by the way, but if you take that argument at face value, if you look at Trump's relationship with NATO, it would almost be as if he would be perfectly fine with all of these files coming out if, in fact, it did implicate people from NATO, because he's not a big fan of NATO. And so now I believe Congress feels differently than he does as a whole, but he doesn't really care. So I think, you know, from the perspective that I would take if I were you in alignment with Trump, which I'm not, is that if NATO is so weak and they're so impotent right now, exposing these files is for the greater good, even if it were to bring them down. Because at the end of the day, when you have rich, powerful men, pedophiles, you know, enslaving and essaying girls, they all should be exposed, bro.
Yes.
And let the chips fall where they may.
They should. They should. Here's what I'm beginning to think right now, because it just seems so weird to me. And you might be in favor of this. To me, it almost seems like it was purposely done this way and released this way to create even more sensation with it, because it really is a linchpin for Trump, because the sentiment by and large behind it after the release was like, this is kind of a vindication for Trump. It kind of lets him off the hook with the files now. It almost seems like it was manipulated the way it was released. And that could kind of go in your favor, because now, again, I don't like the fact that we're weaponizing this shit. We should go out and take these guys down. It's like this thing on social media where you see it's like, so-and-so's accused. We're going to investigate these people. People are done seeing the investigations, but I think people at this point want to see the arrest.
There needs to be action. And again,
they took Diddy down. Go get these guys that are on this list. This is just absolutely atrocious.
He wasn't taken down because he got 50 months. What's 50 months for all the stuff that he
spilled
did,
the beans. Bro? He spilled the beans on whatever he did.
He got a sweetheart deal, man. That's what I believe. Just my opinion. But to me, when you look at all of the names of people, it's so clear when you look at the documents. There are people's names that are in black that could be redacted, that have been redacted, where we would know who these perpetrators are. So the $1 million question that everybody keeps asking is, why are these people being protected? Because when you don't give us specific answers, then we all have to come to our own conclusions, which is You're protecting them for a reason. And because you're protecting them, that means that there's probably some of you that are in the White House, in Congress, that are sitting right now, that are in those files, and that have been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt to have done something. And so I think
that's possible. I think that's possible. That I think is possible. What I don't think is possible is I don't think Trump is in any way implemented in any of that stuff. I don't
know how you could say that.
I think Trump's clean because they would have found it.
I don't know how you could say that.
Because all of those guys that I mentioned, the gang of 25, would have used that and weaponized it against him. They threw everything at this guy to get him.
But if
they threw everything at him. They didn't have one move left on the. They played 5 games of chess to beat his one, and they still couldn't beat him.
But your argument is the same as, okay, well, if the United States is so mad at Russia, why don't we just nuke them and send a bomb?
I don't think we are mad at Russia.
Okay, so choose a country. China, they're existential
I don't think
threat.
we're mad at China either. I think we're mad at NATO.
Okay, this is the point that I'm making though, that the United States, let's just say China was the United States arch nemesis.
Okay.
And the world would be better objectively without them. However, if we send bombs to them, they're going to send bombs to us, and the collateral damage is just too much to take one nuclear warhead and send it over there. The same is true, I believe, my opinion, no objective facts, no journalistic, background on this. I believe that the reason why the other administrations didn't expose Trump, if he's in the files doing terrible pedophile types of things, is because if they exposed him, they've got to expose the whole thing, and it's just too much collateral damage. So what you're saying is that he hasn't been exposed because he hasn't done anything. What I'm saying is that he hasn't been exposed. Maybe he didn't do anything, but his name is in there too many times to conclusively believe that he wasn't in there. Now, remember, when we first started talking about this, my assumption was exactly aligned with yours, Chris. I was like, okay, yeah, I don't think he's, I know that he's a womanizer and he likes women. He said that he likes them over 25. And that's what I believed. But based on new evidence, I have come to no conclusion yet. But I'm saying, considering how much he's in there, the possibility of him being involved is significantly higher to me than it was before. And all I'm saying is that I'm not sure how you could come to the conclusion that it's not even a question that he's involved. That's all that's
because the guy, because if you look at the women he's always been with, he's an alpha guy. He's never been, look at the women he's always been with. Oh, that doesn't mean anything. No. Look at the women he's always been with. He's got children. There's no freaking way, man. Look at the women he's been. You can tell it. You can see it. You get that feeling. There's just no way. There's just no way, no way, no way. There's no
I think it's because you love him, and because there's no way that guy could do it.
Here's what I will say.
I'm not saying he did it, but I'm certainly not saying he didn't. That's all. Here's what I
will say. Just when you thought it was like, all right, cool, bro, you're gaining points, you're calming things down. They have to release this stupid freaking thing with the videos, and I've seen it with the Obama.
Okay, let's please,
dude. It's just so. I'm just like. I just seen it. I heard about it. And then I was like, there's no freaking way. There's no way. No way. And then I seen it.
My first reaction too. It's like,
I seen it and I went,
no, there's no way. It must be AI. That's what I thought.
Who approved this?
You're talking about Obama being presented as apes, right? I just want to make sure our audience is.
They're all animals. He puts all these people as animals in this like all Jumanji skit.
But yes,
there's the
Lion King.
I don't know who. Lion King, whatever. Yes, it was the Lion King. That's what it was. But it starts off with that, the Obamas. And I thought it was so, there's satire, and then there's satire, and you're like, just stop. Like, you're just like, this was so unneeded, so uncalled for. You know exactly what that is. Like, stop it. You could do that if they did it to you first, but they're not doing that to you. They're not. They're not going around with an Orange Man parade balloon of you and all that stuff. Biden said worse things about Trump than Obama's did. And I know they have a long history, but that was just totally uncalled for. Absolutely just gutter. Like, that's where I go, Trump, you're a freaking, come on, bro. That's where you just want to be like, bro, what are you doing? Stop.
Exactly.
Stop. That's the kind of crap we don't need. We don't need that kind of crap. But at the same time, we don't need the governor of Arizona telling residents that if they feel like they're threatened, they can kill ICE. Okay? We don't need that happening either.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all of that. So the issue with the video is that some people were arguing
it's racist.
Racist. I'm saying on the other side, some people were pushing back. Like, what was the lady's, the press secretary's name?
I don't know
I'll
who
find
was.
it. What is her name? Caroline Levitt.
Yeah, Levitt.
She came, and was like, hey, this is fake outrage, blah, blah, blah. Look, you're the office of the president. You have to understand that your standards have to be higher. And the issue is this, like, okay, so the whole thing about like, let's just say somebody presented Trump as, a 50-50 bar ice cream cone with orange skin and white eyes because he gets the tans and stuff like that.
Yep.
And you're making fun of those. Okay. It's mean spirited, but there's a whole history of the eugenics movement and how there was quote unquote scientific evidence to show that African people are genetically connected to monkeys, right? And so they use that as a way to suggest that we are an inferior group of people. And so when you know that these tropes have been around for 500 years since the dawn of the eugenics movement, you have to understand that certain things are off limits. And so like if you presented Obama as like, I don't know, a smiling, salesman that will say anything to get votes or whatever. Okay. It might be mean spirited, but that's different than presenting him as an ape. If you see somebody and say, oh, he's got big ears and they're like Dumbo ears, right? He's got some pretty big ears, right? And you said they're like Dumbo ears. That doesn't carry the same racist undertone. And that was explicit. Now, what the other side is trying to argue is that it was a video about election fraud. And there was a guy talking about how the machines were turned off right when, Trump's numbers were ahead and, Biden started to catch up. And then it was like for 1 second after that. And so it was a staffer that made the mistake. But you're the office of the president. You have to have fail-safe mechanisms in place so that anything that goes public that has your name attached to it, you signed off on it. Like, so it just shows that you have weak systems in place and you cannot do that as the president of the United States. Now, there's some credence to the fact that there were 50 or 60 different posts that were done that night. Okay, no problem. But this still doesn't give an excuse for that happening. And then for you to know that happened and to not issue an apology, it just says something about the class that a president is supposed to have and the decorum that a president is supposed to have. And he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. And last thing that I'll say is this, is that whether you believe that he's racist or not, the fact is that when you take one thing in isolation, you can always have plausible deniability.
Yeah.
But when you look at the history and you start connecting the dots, it's pretty hard for me to come to the conclusion. And I don't like to talk to you about race because I know it's a sensitive topic, but like with Trump, like, look, 1973, he had the whole housing discrimination case and it was against black residents. And then in 1989, you remember, did you ever watch that movie called the Central Park 5? Did you watch that on Netflix? It was about the kids that were, if you get a chance, Chris, it's a 4-part series and it's about kids that were wrongfully convicted of a murder of a girl in Central Park. This happened.
I know. I remember that. I remember that. I remember the story, but I didn't watch the documentary. What's the name of it?
Oh man, please, I'll send it to you.
You got to send it to me because I need a new one to watch right now.
Brother, it was one of the hardest things to watch, man. And so, but during that time, President Trump took out a full page ad, like pushing for the death penalty for those kids. And they were kids, bro. They were kids. And then the evidence finally came out and exonerated them. So imagine if he would have had the same level of political power, who knows? They could have been put to death for something they didn't do. And then you look at the whole birther campaign with Obama saying that he's not American. And then you got the travel bans with the Muslims and the comments about the Mexicans being rapists and, the whole comments about, Haiti being a shit hole and then, Somalia being a hellhole. Like if you look and point all of those different instances, man, like I've known you for going on 15 years. There's no way I can give a laundry list of incidences like that suggest that your racial worldview is off-putting. There's no evidence of that. But when you have a person like this, it's like pieces of evidence after evidence after evidence. And like, I try not to play that card, man. I really try not to. But man, when you put all of those pieces together, it's really, really, really hard to like take all of these pieces of evidence and be his lawyer. It's hard to litigate that. So I'll wrap up with this, Chris. Feel free to, say whatever you want in response. Is that all I'm saying is that when you're the president of the United States, not the president of the Republican Party, you have to have a higher level of decorum. And I'm not talking about what other presidents did and what they didn't do. I'm talking about the president that's in place right now. He's got 3 more years. And I just hope that he figures out, man, he's got to change his ways, but you can't teach an old dog new tricks, man. So that's all I have to say about it.
I believe that what you see with Trump is what you get with Trump. And I don't think you're ever going to change him. And this is not to dismiss his behavior or to justify it or by any means. When you watch movies and you watch shows from that era, from that time, it's the same type of behavior. It is. And I don't think that he necessarily means, the malice. I don't think that maybe the malice is behind it. Maybe it is. I don't know. I can't say there is. I just don't feel like a lot of times that it is. And I just think that he is operating the way he knows how to operate. And you're not ever going to like it. And there's a lot of things I don't like about that. I don't think there's a place for any type of, for me in my mind anyways, I don't think there's any place for it. Like we're all human beings. Like to me, it's that to me, it's all merit based. I don't care, what, skin color you are, what background you are. To me, it's show me your merit, show me what you can do. And this is because we were in an environment where we recruited a lot of people. Now, I do believe in gender roles. That I do believe. And I think that creates a lot of confusion in the world today, is just that we misalign and miscategorize responsibilities for people based on gender, where, women should yes, we can put women in the military, but that's not like the number one thing. They're not by design optimized for military service. They're just not, right?
Yeah, we're not optimized for babysitting.
And we're not. We're not optimized.
Large numbers of kids.
I tell me, look, I've had kids and I don't like to touch the babies until they're at least 12 months old. To me, it's like, dude, this thing is, I don't want to mess with this
fragile.
thing. Don't let me hold this child until it's at least 12 months. Once that baby is a year and a half, that's my family. Like, let's go. When you can be rough with them, and you could do this with them, and they're like, and they fight back with you, great. But before then, boom. yeah, I think that Trump is just, I don't want to say he's a dinosaur, but he's a relic from that era of the world. And people there's very few that operate that way still. But what I can say about Trump is that he does get shit done. And that's what irritates people. He gets things done, and he gets things done very efficiently because he gets them done the way he believes in it. And that's what makes it so efficient, is because he wholeheartedly believes that that's the best course of action. And to me, following a leader like that is vast superior to then following a leader who just makes it look good. I've been with leaders that just make it look good, and I've been seen with leaders that just get it done. And to me, it's like, I just want to get stuff done. And right now, America needs to get stuff done. We just need to get stuff done. We need both. I mean, but let me emphasize this again. Though, because maybe I put a little bit too much humor on it. I don't want to say humor, but lightheartedness on it. Because I opened it like just when you thought it was safe and you thought it was cooling off, but seriously, it is. It's like just when you thought it was like, all right, cool, we got a rhythm here. You could be a Billy badass and you could be an alpha and you can get shit done and you can make things happen, but you don't have to get cheap like that again. And to me, it was just cheap. It's very cheap. It's a very cheap move, and it shows uncouth cheapness. And you know what? It was probably done in the heat of the moment where they were like, oh, we got leverage and we're riding high right now. And we've got confidence and we're cocky and let's throw it in there. And they did. And they went, oh, shit. That's probably how it went down. But don't get too cocky, guys. Nobody needs to get too cocky. We shouldn't be getting too cocky about everything. Let's stay humble. Yeah. Let's stay humble. I think it was a disgrace. None of that kind of crap should come out of the office of the president. Definitely. You can do satire all you want, but leave that kind of crap to comedians.
Yes,
you're not a comedian. You're not a jester, bro. You're a king. Right. You're not a jester. Not a king in a sense, but act kingly. Yeah. You're not a jester, bro.
Right. Absolutely. And it's just like, if a woman is married to a really effective husband, the fact that he's effective, he might raise his kids well. He might be the best at his job. He may be the CEO, for his business. He may, provide a beautiful home and great cars. But if he slaps his wife around, man, like it takes away from all of that other stuff. Right. And on the other side, if you have a husband who's good looking guy, says all the right things, but then, he's a dirtbag, and he treats his wife like crap all the time. Like that's not good either, right? So you need a combination of the two, and especially again, closing out for the office of the president. I hope the next person that we put in office collectively is a combination of a person that knows how to get things done, that knows how to unify, and that knows how to represent the country on the world stage where we're not laughing stocks all over the world. Because I don't care what you say, Chris, when you see a president that gets his face shown in Italy and he gets booed, and now his vice president is getting booed when he's shown on, in Milan, that's not saying a whole lot, because that's not how we've experienced our relationship with the world. Before this presidency, you can say what you want. And, I have different beliefs about the effectiveness of his predecessors. One thing that is objectively true is that the world still looked at us as the envy and the apple of their eye. Like, man, this is a place where I would want to be. And you guys have a leadership that's good to the world. Whether you like them or not, that's one thing. But I see that tide shifting now, man. And, I hope the next president starts to move it back to where it's supposed to be.
Really wish that the world operated that way, the way you explained it. But I don't think that it operates that way. And here's what I mean by that. where you're like, oh, the apple, where America was the apple of their eye, and
Are you saying that wasn't the case? Because you're the one who talks that way more than me.
No. I'm not saying that wasn't the case. Here's what I'm saying. I wish that the world was that way. The problem, though, is that the world is not that way, and the reality behind it is this: Trump has to be that way because the rest of the world are jackals, and they really don't.
You really believe that?
I really believe that the rest. You said look. You said the rest of the world. America is the apple of their eye, right?
Yeah, but it's mostly economically. It's mostly economically in the.
But I don't believe it's that way. I believe it's all envy based. All of it's envy based.
Because we live a great lifestyle, bro. Because of our economy.
Right.
That's
here's the thing. The reason why globalism was pushed, and the reason why that was pushed so much, I think, Len, is because they can't stand the fact that you can live in a 4,000 square foot house on 3/4 of an acre and drive a freaking SUV that's the size of someone that lives in the UK's entire house to work, and have a sports car and a convertible and a lake house and be fat and happy about it. Because you can't do that in Europe.
And
you just can't.
And we talked about it a few episodes ago. We ain't doing that in America anymore either.
But there still is a lot. There still is a lot of opportunity.
Way more than most people, yes. But compared to where we were,
here's the reason why it's gonna flip, Lynn. It's gonna flip because I wish all those people had good sentiments for America, but they don't. They really don't. I wish they did, but they don't. They don't. They do not have.
You mean like on a governmental level? Because we both traveled the world, man.
No.
You're talking about
but
government,
you always get
right?
you're talking about. I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about these leaders. These leaders of these aristocratic leaders, mostly NATO aristocratic leaders that have appointed themselves, that have all.
Okay, that's a different conversation.
All these manners and all these things that they want to say, right? But it's like, well, how? Here's my thing. How can anybody possibly, if Xi Jinping is so bad and Vladimir Putin is so bad, as everyone says they are, and India, we haven't even talked about India yet. I mean, how things are ran there. If these leaders that run these countries are so bad, how do they have any time to think about how bad Trump is? I mean, you could waste your whole life just thinking about how. I mean, there's no genocide happening in America today. There's genocide happening in China. There's nobody dying.
Atrocities happening. Genocide is
where? What atrocities are happening in America today? Like where?
No, I'm talking about in China. In China, I wouldn't say that they're going through genocide. But I can understand. I'll get with you on that.
Okay, cool. But there's atrocities happening in China. There's atrocities happening in India. There's atrocities happening in the Ukraine. No one's talking about any of these things. But we have all this time to talk about Trump because he's so evil. Wait a minute. Hold on. Trump's not killing people. We're not talking about the African warlords that are openly killing and mutilating young girls and young boys. No one's talking about these things because Trump's so evil. No, the reason why everyone's mad at Trump is because Trump's taking away their free lunch and dinner and giving it back to the people in America. That's why they're so mad. That's why Macron had to wear those sunglasses at Davos, because he was so embarrassed for anyone to see his face, because his country's in turmoil. And instead of him talking and looking at his country and looking at France and going, dang, we need to be a strong country to help NATO, we're just mad at America because America won't go in a proper country up again. It's just unfair.
Well,
Len, it's almost like me saying, Len, since you have 2 masters and a PhD and I have none, you just ought to share one with me. Because, it's the right NATO thing to do. It's, if you and I were in a NATO treaty, you would have to give me 1.5 of your degrees. You'd have to give me 1 master and we'd have to split the PhD. And that's just being 50-50. And NATO's not even 50-50. NATO is Pareto principle. NATO is 80% America, 20% European Union or whoever else is in it. And you're laughing because you know it's true.
From an economic standpoint, I agree that they have not done their fair share. I agree with that.
But you know where they have done their fair share? Culturally. Because I love Italian cuisine. I love Italian olive oil. I love French cheeses. I love German cars. I love Spanish wines. I can't figure out what I love from the UK yet. I won't say what I love from Amsterdam. You can say it. You know, I love a lot of things from a lot of countries, but I just can't seem to fit, right? But again,
Amsterdam has great pastries, by the way.
Len, let's check this out. We looked at this up.
Really close to the
river cruises. River cruises. Len, go look up river cruises. We gotta go. Go look them up from Amsterdam to Budapest, or Budapest to Amsterdam. It's like 19, 18 days. It's badass. I'm gonna send you the link. I'm so going. You gotta look at it. It's
let's
awesome.
do this, man. Let's set it up for 2028, man. Let's go. Let's do it.
I love it. Well, it's one. With that being said, you should be going traveling. You should be looking at it. So, Lenny, last thoughts, Len, before we close out today. It's been a wild week.
Yeah, regardless of all of the distractions, it's really important to keep the main thing. And as a country, we have to stay united. We have to not be so divided. And people who do bad things to those that are innocent and powerless, we have to hold those people to account. So do not allow these people that are committing these terrible bad acts to go unpunished. We have to keep up the fervor, the conversations. We have to keep them in the front so that the right people will be brought to justice, regardless of who they are. So with that being said, if you liked what you saw, please like, comment, share, tell other people about this platform, because at the end of the day, we are looking to just hopefully give you value to make you think differently and look at the same situation from multiple perspectives.
See you on the next one.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.